So what, back to the, oh, yeah, knee extension. So, um, I guess a lot of that, obviously I address my knee issues to the coaches and trainers on campus. And, there's always going to be, um, very interesting, information and ways of how people go about rehabbing and strengthening and whatnot. There's never one way to do something. So that's the fun part about learning from different strength coaches, different therapists. And what's interesting is too is people have to remember that what works for you doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's a little bit different. And like for me specifically, like you, um, I took the seated leg extensions or quad extensions, and I also did outside on my own time at the gym when I would go on my own. Um, and that helped for me a ton because I was going away from something that was, let's say, a lunge or a squat worn out for a little while, where I'm putting a lot of tension on my knee joint itself, right, the patella, and I wasn't loading it as I was if I was standing, and I was sitting instead. So now I'm taking a lot of stress away from there, and to me, it's a lot more depending how you do it. Let's say if you're just starting out, it's more of just a concentric, mostly a concentric exercise, just bringing up, coming back down to rest, bring up, coming down to rest, and you can kind of play around with um, how hard you want to make it. So at the end, the little cushion, if you bring it higher up towards the knee, maybe halfway up your shin, then that's going to be less stress on the knee, right? Because that moment arm's a little bit shorter. So then, but if obviously people bring down to their ankles naturally, that's when it's going to be tougher. It's further away from the joint to move that thing. But for me specifically, for some reason, for me, my knee didn't bug almost ever every time I did that. I can definitely feel the patella tendon, you know, um, tensing up and doing the necessary things it needs to help me move my leg. But that tension wasn't painful at all. It felt like good tension. It felt like everything was contracting, and I was able to extend my knee and or yeah, extend my leg, and it didn't bug my knee at all, and it directly hit into my quad. So
Yeah.
actually, a lot of our from both sides, indoor and beach, men's and women's. We actually do a lot of that knee rehabbing and jumpers knee issues with the seated leg extension. So that's probably the only machine that we have in the weight room, right? So we do find there's a lot of benefit in that where you could sit down, really attack the quads without placing a lot of demands on that joint itself,
Hmm.
and just to kind of let that work. And obviously, we do a lot of eccentrics with it and try to overload that quad a bit. Um, and so, yeah, there's just for some reason, like for me specifically, it worked a ton. There was a lot of mini band work for my glutes and hip thrusts and RDLs, and a ton of mobility. The more I was able to open up my hips, it made a world of difference in how one I played, two how much better I moved and jumped, and
Yeah.
then three how much faster I got, and four, and my knee issue is just um, over time it almost pretty much just disappeared, and to this day it doesn't bug me. The only times it bugs me is if I'm coming off from a plane ride or car ride that was a little bit longer, and then I go and try to play. I have to spend more time dedicated to warming up, getting my joints a little bit more loose through just increasing my heart rate, getting blood flow in there, and going through a lot of mobility. And then that opens me up to go and play and perform. And so the moment I don't do that and I just try to go and play, I instantly like it won't feel good. And I think it's just always going to be like that. But the fact that it's not hurting all day, and especially when I arrive, especially when I play and leave, like to me, that I am so grateful for that because for the longest time I did not know how much more I was going to play volleyball besides passing all day.
Yeah.
I mean, even passing hurt, like taking a side, just a shuffle, lunging over, holding myself up. So to me specifically, I think the quad extension has its benefits because of those things that I just mentioned.
Hmm.
And it worked for me. It sounds like it worked for you. And I know it's worked for a lot of people on the highest levels. And I know a lot of people, it didn't work for a lot of people on the highest levels. And it really depends what's going on with their knee. Like what's going inside yours is different from mine based
Yeah.
off, some of those diagnoses. And some athletes have maybe displaced kneecaps a little bit to a certain degree laterally, maybe it's rotated, right? So wherever it is on that knee, it does play a huge part into whether certain exercises are beneficial or not. Because I've seen a lot of very basic exercises be put on a lot of high level athletes, and there's some where we just don't do it with certain athletes. Like the most basic exercise, we just stay away from completely.
Mm-hmm.
And you could look at it and say, man, what's wrong with this person? Why can't they do this? Right. So it really takes somebody who knows them and that they can trust with that information to to be able to build that rapport and just take into consideration of what the athlete needs and doesn't need and how you can get the same stimulus or benefit in another direction. So
Yeah.
that's my take on it. So it honestly comes back to the whole it depends. Like
Mm-hmm.
honestly, that's the best answer for a lot of things. So I hope
Yeah.
that helps people, and it's more of you need to figure it yourself, right? You need to go and do it, see if it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, as I know a lot of people are talking about, like it bugs the ACL, it does all this and that. I mean, the ACL tears um and just injuries in general are a lot of just extreme hard impact and just torque and torsion of the knee, changing directions. So to me specifically, I don't, the knee, the seated leg extension isn't doing a whole lot of that. I would be more worried about how you land and move and how
Yeah.
you play the court than that exercise itself.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's great insight and your personal story. And there's so many people out there with jumper's knee, and for you to have such an extreme version, that's great that you've recovered from that. And those who have experienced such debilitating knee injuries, it sucks. It's more than just sucks because you really have to think, do I want to keep playing because
Yeah,
this hurts so much, and the good news is majority of the injuries are very, very preventable, and you can recover the majority of them. And to add on to a couple other stories for the leg extension, by the way, just a disclaimer, you just have to follow what your medical professional says. But I personally always try to take it with a grain of salt, and I try to consult multiple people of different disciplines to get a full opinion. Because
mm-hmm.
like my orthopedic surgeon, who also played volleyball, recommended against it. My physical therapist, who played volleyball, recommended against it. My chiropractor recommended it. So I really had to make like Chris said, it depends. I had to make an educated decision. I started off light and said, does this hurt? Do I feel knee instability? I know the risk for people who have just loose joints, if the tibia could just keep slipping out, and if that's you don't want to do this. That's like the worst thing you can do for the knee with this exercise. But
Yeah,
as I increased the weight, it actually felt better. So that's how I knew, like, maybe this is a good exercise for me. And I actually stayed away from it for a long time because when I was studying for my personal training certification, the accepted dogma at the time was leg extension is bad, too much shearing
mm-hmm.
force on the knee. So I just went by that. I just trusted my education in that area until I saw two videos. Holly
Mm-hmm.
McPeak. Um, I think she's only what, 5'5".
Yeah, she's not very
Dude,
big.
bronze Olympic medalist, beach 5'5". That's a major baller. And I found a training a special of her training, and she was doing explosive leg extensions, and she was playing for a very long time. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second video I saw was the great David Lee from USA national team, one of the best blockers ever. He was playing for Zenit Kazan, which is one of the top club teams in the world.
Yep.
And he just happened to be doing a video on how to help with knee injuries. And he says in our club, we do eccentric, slow eccentric leg extension, single leg. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
man, any Russian sports team, I believe, usually has a very good strength and conditioning program. So much of our uh, exercise science has been influenced by the Soviet Union, and we still use those principles till today. So they have a very
Yes.
scientific approach to training. So I'm thinking, man, if those guys do it, and Zenit's got the top trainers and the top players, and these guys, I mean, David Lee played until late 30s. He's playing the AVP. There's got to be some merit to this. So that's kind of what opened my mind to, bottom line is that there's very few exercises are bad in itself. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you punch yourself in the face, that's not a good exercise, right? But very few exercises are bad in itself. Going back to what you said again, it depends. It depends on your body type. It depends on your injury state. People who are like Kevin Durant, he's what, 7 feet? He's not going to do an ass to grass squat. Just those leverages are just so bad for his body type, right? Where someone like my height, shorter limbs, I need to go all the way down to get full glute, quad, ham stimulation. So I'm sure this discussion is gonna keep going for leg extension. It's gonna keep debating,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And I think here, let's see. I also think, you hear that? Yeah.
That
Oh, there's like a cat somewhere in my neighborhood. I can hear it right now.
I was gonna say, it's like, because we have the 3 cats here. It's like I could have swore I put the cats out. Where are they?
That's funny. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
was just gonna say, I mean, yeah, if people could just be a fly in the wall in, the USA gym, or, any highly successful college scene, strength and conditioning facility or room, there's a lot of exercises in there that you would definitely raise your eyebrow to. And there's a ton of very old school, you could say, like the quiet seated leg extension, that people are still sticking to, that you could raise your eyebrow to. So it's always a matter of yeah, just kind of taking it, like, just like when you read research paper, right? There's dozens, millions of research out there, right? And every time you read it, a lot of people, I personally think a lot of people shouldn't read it and then take it as okay, like, man, this is what they're finding, this is it, like, boom, that's it, like, these are the facts. And I think a lot of young researchers or strength coaches or just people in general who research for fun, just, you have to understand that research has a lot of variables that are taken into account and not taken into account. So um, there's no true answer to a lot of different things, and it's just how you perceive it based off the information you're getting,
Yeah.
right? So I think that keeps people open-minded, understanding that although the information is really good and this is what they're finding, there's a lot of different findings. There's people who are going to counter it. So it's kind of up to you to figure out, like, all right, like, based off what I think, what's best for me, what's the best solution. And yeah, like, you're right. I think going back to Russia, they've got so many very knowledgeable strength conditioning specialists and movement specialists, and their principles and methodologies have carried on through to the rest of the world. So if they're hiring somebody over there and they're doing a lot of different things, then that's what's working for them. And I don't think they'll very strongly say this is the best way to do it. This is how that we're doing. They'll probably, this is what we've found to be the most effective, and that's what I tell a lot of people. Like, I don't know all the answers, right? I don't know every single exercise in the world. I don't know the reason behind every single thing. I know what I know now, and I'm still going to continue to learn and um, feel like, make myself feel like, I guess, not the most knowledgeable person in the room, because if I am, I need to get out of that room.
Mm.
But just being like that lifelong learner and figuring it out. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Russians are just saying, this is what's most effective. This is what we found around the world, and
Excuse me.
that's what's going on, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times when we're speaking to coaches from around the country, or traveling out to different seminars, or sometimes when I show up to high schools and talk, we talk a lot about in clinics about different ways to, let's say, pass, or different ways to do something in the game that really you would definitely raise your eyebrow at. But when we show the statistics, the facts, and, like, we're explaining, this is what's happening around the world, this is what's effective, this is what the best passers in the world are doing, um and we're not saying this is the right way, but hey, like, if you're playing at this level and you're doing this, then maybe we should rethink the way we're teaching certain things, as you progress in levels. So, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to that, as you've been around a lot of different athletes starting out. You can teach them very basic things that's universal pretty much. And as they get better, you can start implementing a little bit more very intuitive playing and intuitive movement patterns into their playing style, that maybe you want to teach right off the bat to a younger person, because you don't want them to pick up a bad habit right away. So yeah, just with anything in general, being an educator, you gotta tell people, like the people probably listening on this, that yeah, figure out what's best for you. There's always gonna be a ton of opinions out there, but like you said, seek out multiple resources. And if they're gonna all say the same thing, then maybe go with that. If you're getting conflicted, then either seek out more or try everything that both sides are saying, and see what where you're at in a couple weeks or whatever it is from then, and see how you feel. And then yeah, that's always gonna be my take on it. What's best for you is only you know.
Yeah.